Today's guest on the Virginia Investor Podcast has a low-key, very impressive story regarding investments in Virginia real estate. Nathan Janocka started in construction management, lost it all trying to start his own contracting company in the 2009 crash, and then rebuilt from nothing. By 2018, he bought his first flip. That deal sparked a business that now completes dozens of projects every year, investing in single-family, multifamily, and even trailer parks, and is actively pursuing rentals, flips, and land deals for infill projects. Nathan stays quiet about his work, and somehow I've convinced him to come on the podcast and share his story, but his results speak for themselves. He's mastered the art of execution, turning consistent effort and strong relationships into real momentum. Today, we'll unpack how he built that growth, what he's learned from failure, and what his next chapter might look like. All right, let's get into it. This is the story of Nathan Janocka. Nathan, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate that, man. I love that intro. I kind of want to meet that guy too, actually.
Yeah.
That was way overbuilt there. But.
Yeah. I am excited to have you on this podcast. We've known each other for some time now, but I do not know your full story, and my intent today is to learn more about your story. Let's start with you growing up. Just tell me a little bit about your childhood. Where'd you grow up? What was childhood like for you?
So we grew up in Edinburgh, Virginia, which is a small town just outside of Harrisonburg. Dad was a pastor. Mom did some teaching, counseling, that sort of thing. It was the stereotypical 80s childhood, right? Probably aging myself, but you see the kid riding a bike down and he's doing a jump off of a 2x10 with some concrete blocks holding it up. That was me. That was me. We played in the dirt, we had fun, and yeah, that was awesome.
Did you play any sports growing up? Anything like that?
I played basketball a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, that was my sport. Absolutely loved it. Great experiences, the whole team building culture, and yeah, really enjoyed it.
What was the population, rough, generally speaking, of the town that you grew up in?
Definitely under 1,000, maybe several hundred. We grew up in Edinburgh, moved to Harrisonburg when we were 16.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 16, Dad took a teaching job up there, and so we moved. So technically Harrisonburg, I guess.
Was your dad a teacher as you were growing up before the move?
He was. He was a principal / assistant. He was a principal and a pastor. So everywhere I went, I knew him as Mr. J. And, it was probably like 10 until I knew something different other than that. But, yeah, he was a big part of that.
What did your mother do for a living?
She was a teacher at the time. She stayed at home for the first several years growing up, and we raised dogs. That was our, kind of a little side income thing. And it grew up a little bit. We had at some point we had like 15 dogs, and we always had puppies, and they were purebred Cocker Spaniels, and we used to run to the woods, and they'd chase us, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
What were your thoughts on, as a child and maybe like teenage years, on money and investing? Like, were you focused on that at all, or was it just go to school, get good grades, and that's it?
I think my parents always did something on the weekends. Like, we always, we used to collect walnuts and take it to the spot, and you'd get a couple bucks for walnuts or cans. And, even with the dogs, there was always some sort of business outside of your W-2 job. It wasn't real estate specific, but it was always just something that you did nights and weekends.
Right. And so that, for you, what was that to pay the bills to make it, or was it just like a side hustle to get more money? Like, to you and your mindset, did you think anything of that, of like, we needed to supplement our income, or that's just some extra ways that they were investing their time to make more money?
My parents were always great with money. They, so to answer that question, I'd say it was just more, just for extra money. And maybe we take a long weekend trip on it or something of that nature, and maybe that helps pay the house down a little bit faster. My parents, we were never rich, but we never wanted for anything.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. It's a good position to be in. Did you have any siblings?
One sister.
Okay, cool.
One sister, and she's a big part of the business now.
Okay, awesome.
Growing up, we weren't friends all the time.
Right.
But, and really real estate has really helped connect us together in the past couple of years than really what we were never really friends in high school and college, but somehow real estate kind of helped that.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I have a brother and my sister, and my brother's a lot older than me. My sister's a year older than me, but we started getting closer in high school. Like it took a while, but we got there. Started looking out for each other. That's cool. We'll get into that later about doing business with family and things like that. I'll need to learn more about that and what your experience is there. So did you go to college?
Yeah, my senior year in high school, I was in a really bad paintball accident, lost the vision of my right eye, and that just threw every college plan I had out the window. And I spent a year or two just going to community college, figuring things out, and then eventually went to community college, went to JMU, had a business degree, and then graduated.
What was your plan during college? Like, what did you want to do when you got out? What were you thinking then at that time about career and money?
I think towards the end, I started becoming very interested in real estate. And at one point, I just wanted to be a realtor. And that's what I wanted to be. And maybe I can do a little development here and there, but I just want to be in real estate. So when I graduated from college, I went to work for a local developer as a project manager. I was like, well, this will be it was 2006-ish. So, economy's still good. That was a good job. Maybe I can do that and develop the real estate side of it. And then, I went more so into the construction route than the sales route at that time.
What sparked your interest in real estate? Do you remember? Was it something specific that you read or you saw or an influence on you where you were like, real estate is what I want to do versus any other industry?
I think, I don't really know the answer to that, to be honest with you. I think at the time, Ryan Holmes used to come and do presentations to our business school. And I was seeing a lot of my friends go on to be sales roles or construction managers and that sort of thing. And that they had a big presence there and a lot of good influences. They used to teach a couple classes, or not really classes. They would speak at a bunch of classes, and it started to make sense, the investing side of it, or at least the real estate side of things.
Right.
And I became interested in there, and then I actually interviewed with them. I went in walking in to be an interview for a sales role, and then a buddy of mine, I was talking to him the night before, and he said, man, your temperament, you're going to fail as in the sales side. He's like, you need to go in construction management. And the more I thought about it last night, he's like, you know what, you're exactly right. I don't have this vibrant personality that's going to go out there and attract a bunch of people. And maybe as a realtor, you don't necessarily need that, but like, you're exactly right. I may be more suited on the construction side. So I literally switched my interview the night before. Didn't get the job, obviously, and then a couple of weeks later, I applied for a local developer that was doing some townhouses out there and went to work for him. Interesting.
That's an interesting perspective too, for your friend to give you that feedback to say, hey, look, you're not going to make it in sales.
Yeah.
You need to be in construction, and it's cool, like looking forward at kind of like some of the stuff you're doing now and some of the partnerships you've had where you've realized like, hey, I'm great at construction. Let me focus on my strength there, and you can still be plenty successful without trying to force what do you call it, like a square peg in a round hole, right?
Exactly
like
right.
Because salespeople a lot of times, one of my biggest challenges, like I consider myself a decent salesperson, but I am very much an introvert, and a lot of people wouldn't know that, but it is exhausting having a lot of different conversations and entertaining people and things like that. And if you have to, as a realtor, you have zero income until you figure out how to do that day in and day out, multiple times a day, and at various levels. And so that could have been a good call. I mean, who knows? You might have been very good at sales and been able to pull it off. But knowing that there's a construction aspect to this, and you could still do real estate and be successful, but not having to have that personality or the sales aspect is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So you went to work for this developer. What was that experience like?
It was local guy. We were cranking them out. We were taking orders is all that was. We were never trying to do anything custom. We were just as fast as we can put them up, we'd sell them. And I worked for him for about 2 years. When the boom started going bust, then I went to work for an out-of-state contractor. And they came in and we did some, a couple hundred townhomes in like 18 months. We were scheduling 24/7. And This was 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. And I knew they were going to leave at some point and the economy wasn't great. It's like, you know what? If I'm going to work this hard, I might as well work for myself. And so that kind of spurred it on. I made a couple phone calls, did a couple small side hustle projects, and then just kind of walked in and quit one day. And I think that was, at the time, that was probably the right move, because it was 2010, and Harrisonburg was slightly insulated from the boom because we were a college town. Mm-hmm. So there's always kind of money coming in at some point, and a lot of our projects were around students, so that helped. But when I started to work for myself, I had a little bit of construction knowledge, but I had always worked for companies that were building to sell. So it was never really doing any contracting, like, hey, let's put on a screen-in porch, let's fix your roof. And I learned very on, I had a little bit of construction knowledge. I didn't know how to run a business at the time. And that was my biggest downfall, was trying to run the business, and I sucked at it.
Yeah. We see that a lot. In fact, there are a lot of people I know that are very good at the trade that they work in, but they really struggle with the business side of things. So did you recognize that through not making any money, or just not having your ducks in a row, or just being unorganized? Like, what did that look like for you when you were trying to run that company?
Probably all of the above, everything you just mentioned.
Because it all kind of correlates, right?
Yeah, and I would either do really well on a job and I make a bunch of money, and the next one I wouldn't do so well. Mm-hmm. And then, I was way underfunded at the time, so I was trying to move money here, move money there, and eventually got to the point where, I'm in the red, it's not great, mm-hmm. and I don't really know what to do. So there was another guy that I had kind of met, was a contractor, so called him, talked to him. We ended up kind of joining forces. I gave him a couple of my jobs, and he really taught me how to treat construction as a business. Mm-hmm. And he was way much better on the business side of things. He needed a couple of jobs. I mean, he was established in his own right, but he could use a couple more jobs. We did a few, and he really taught me how to run it as a business, mm-hmm. In that regard. So he worked for him a couple years. And then, long story short, my best friend was living in Richmond at the time. The girl I was dating, she moved to Richmond. I was like, you know what? It's 2013. I think I'm going to move. Mm-hmm. I always came to Richmond, enjoyed it, really, really liked it. So I waited till I got a job as a custom home for a custom home builder, and then moved.
Interesting. So when you had to kind of wind down your own business and then go work with the other guy who was already in there, I imagine during those years that was very difficult to do financially. Mm-hmm. Were you back up on your feet for the most part by the time you moved to Richmond, or were you moving to Richmond for different opportunities? Like, were you pretty much reestablished at that point financially and then moving to Richmond?
Yes. When I moved, I was at least steady.
Okay.
Before I had kind of joined forces with him, I literally ran out of gas one day. Like, it was down to the wire. Yeah. I had money coming in the next day or something like that, but it just wasn't good.
How old were you at that time, roughly?
I'd probably have been 24.
Yeah, so I like pointing that out, because I think a lot of, at least younger investors, believe that they need to have it all figured out by their mid-20s, and I think that's a good lesson. I certainly didn't. I didn't have it. I still don't have it figured out, but I didn't really get into real estate until I think my late 20s, early 30s, and where I started like putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So if anyone in the audience is at a low spot at this point, and they're in their mid 20s or early 20s, at least about real estate.
Yes.
At least that this exists, in that there is a such thing as investing in real estate and building generational wealth. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just like, go to college, which I didn't go to college. I dropped out, and then go to college and then get a W-2 and get a good corporate job and just stay there for 40 years, And so I think it's interesting, because a lot of the successful guests that I have on will talk about their rock bottoms that are in their 20s or 30s, and people look at them now and they're like, man, they're crushing it, they're living the best, a dream life, and have all these things, they're well on their way to it. And I think it's good to point out that, like, It's not all just like people aren't getting out of school or high school, college, and then just going straight into real estate investing and making millions of dollars.
Exactly right. Very rarely do you see a CEO or someone very successful. The first thing they try day one out of college, be successful, and they go on to be, do amazing things. There's always some sort of, well, that didn't go so well.
Yeah.
That probably shouldn't have done that. Let's do this.
Yeah. I think almost none that happens to, and the reason is because you learn so much from your losses and your failures. Like, you probably have things that you knew went wrong in your business that you would not allow to happen again based on what you learned back then. And so people just get so much stronger from the adversity they face. And that's why I like calling out when people face this type of adversity, because I think other people need to hear that that's normal, it's natural, and it's a part of tuition. It's a part of learning. So you moved to Richmond. What was your goal and what was your plan when you moved to Richmond? Get a job and that's it?
I wanted to wait until I had a job to move.
Okay.
And then went to work for a local custom home builder. Great guy, still friends with him to this day. And, in 2013, it was me, him, one or two other people, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And I stayed with him for about 10 years. I started off as a project manager, then became production manager, and then became the land guy. And I was a land guy for a small custom home builder. It's not the same as if you're a land guy for a national builder, but it as the company grew, I was able to grow with it. I like to think I was a part of that, but it taught me. It gave me so sometimes when you move to an area, you don't have the backstory of, well, you see that 7-Eleven over there, that used to be this, that used to be that, So you're at a real disadvantage. But because I was a custom home guy, we went everywhere. Mm-hmm. And, we went everywhere, sometimes in the city, sometimes in Rico. So it forced me to go to all these areas and learn the area. And that really helps in my real estate side of things, because I'm much more familiar with the area. I had done projects or, we were buying and selling land in those areas. So you could kind of equate that land to roughly what you're going to build, and just know, hey, this street's not great. You're going to get a little bit more on that one. Mm-hmm. And that really helped me very early on.
That's an interesting experience to get. I have a buddy now who is interested in real estate investing. And if he listens to this, he'll probably give me a hard time. But I give him a hard time because he hasn't started investing yet. And he thinks that he needs to learn more before he starts investing. But he's been working for a developer for many years, and now he's a land guy for one of the national companies, but only operates in this area. And he is just really well. So he probably could put on a blindfold and build a house, like build 10 houses without any issues. Like he's built hundreds of houses, and he's got such a good knowledge base that he almost knows too much, that he's like scared to get started because he knows so much about land and he knows so much about development. Yep. That he won't pull the trigger because he thinks he needs to know more. And it's really, but I've seen the knowledge that he has gained through that experience, and he is just very well equipped to do a lot of things on his own if he wants to, if he pulls the trigger on it.
Yeah, he absolutely should. Plus, you learn more by doing. That's
for sure.
That have been 99.9% of your guests on here that have talked about that. You learn by doing. So.
Right. Most of the people that I know that are building houses now had 0% of experience and just like bought land and figured it out.
Yeah.
And like made all the mistakes and then broke even and then did it again, and things like that. But so how long were you with this builder?
So I was with him about 10 years.
Okay, cool.
The roles changed and my responsibilities changed, but I was with him about 10 years.
Awesome. And then so the 2013 is when you moved to Richmond. You get this experience of learning all about the market, the community, probably building relationships and things like that. In 2018, you decide you're starting to look at investing, and you do your first deal. What brought you to being the investor instead of just the developer or builder?
I think I was at Gather in Short Pump, and I don't think he realized this, but I was talking to Chris Jefferson at the time.
Awesome.
And he's like, "Hey man, we got this ring meeting over here. We're in real estate. You should come. You're in construction. You should come." So I went randomly just to go. At the time, it was in Killian's or whatever, that little Irish pub right next door, and went over there, started hanging out with the guys, and then, kind of recognized some people I knew from the construction side of it, and then started talking. It's like, oh, well, he's flipping a house and he's doing a rental, and it's like, well, this is what I do. Maybe I should try this. And I was surfing on Facebook one day, and someone posted a house over in Hanover, and I looked at it, it's like, well, it's actually a halfway decent deal. So I called the guy, and he gave me the price, and when I was a wholesaler and still one of my good friends today, and I hung up the phone. I walked back into the house I was working on. I was talking to Mel, one of my good friends, and I was like, man, this is a decent deal. Like, maybe we should do it. He's like, well, yeah, we should definitely do that. So somehow we pulled our money together, bought it, and flipped it.
What did that? So you used your own capital for this, and then what was that first experience? I mean, you're good at construction, so maybe not a lot of hiccups, or was it pretty smooth experience for you?
It went relatively smooth. It went relatively smooth. He was a painter, and I did a few odds and ends, and it's funny, the numbers that we bought that house at, I was looking at it the other night, we would never buy that house today.
Really?
But it worked because there was no financing cost. I was the real estate agent at the time. Like, we both walked out of there with like 12, 15 grand, but the margins, you never would do it today.
Was it like you bought it at too high of a percentage of the ARV or something like that?
I think we bought it like 190. We put in 35 and sold it at 256.
Got it. Yeah, so just something. Really slim margins.
Yeah, I mean it all worked. We came out in the black, but never, you would never do it again. But we thought that was the coolest thing in the world. We both made $15,000.
Right.
We only worked like 5 Saturdays.
Yeah, I was gonna say what, like a month and a half, 2 months or something like that. Yeah, that's awesome. That was similar to my first deal ever, and it was sort of like I also had to convince my wife to some degree that this would work. And so the first deal we did was just absolutely golden, like enough to like at least allow us to believe that this is possible. And it took 45 days. We did we BRRRR'd it. So the initial close to the refi close was 45 days. And I think the rehab costs were maybe $15,000. But we gained like $45,000 in equity on the house, just and then we're able to pull money out on the refi, a few $1,000s, and then boom, it was cash flowing after all expenses somewhere around like $400, $500 a month. And I was like,
this is the best thing ever.
This is it. And my wife was like, cool, do some more. And then I think the next deal was like we bought 3, and she was like, hey,
what happened?
Yeah. But it all, it worked out. So that sounds like a great first deal to like get your confidence in place that you could do more. What sort of actions did you take after that to learn more about real estate investing?
I started really watching other people that were doing it, watching other people in the room, and love to research, love finding the background of this, of certain things. And I'd hear somebody talk about, I bought 123 Main Street, we're flipping it. And I'd go and see, all right, well, we bought it at this, kind of look at the picture. I think you spent that, and you're going to resell it at this. And then I really just started kind of deep dive into how does this industry work? Because I understand construction, I understand building and what side, but how does this work? And at the 2018, there were some videos, there were some podcasts at the time, but there wasn't a ton of information. And that's how I just kind of researched my way into it. And
were you going to a lot of meetups? Like, because that one meetup worked for you. Did you find all kinds of other meetups and integrate yourself?
I went to every single meetup that there was.
Awesome.
At the time, if a wholesaler was looking at a house, I learned that sometimes at the time, the wholesaler would just email it out, and then 5 people would go look, and that's the way it was done. Now it's not so much, but I'd go and just meet everybody that was there. And I may not be the buyer, but I just want to see, how does this happen?
Yeah, so you would almost reverse engineer the deal. Yes. Like you would see the deal through, but just from observing, and then reverse engineer what the numbers probably look like and why it made sense or didn't make sense. And because I've done something similar too. If I didn't understand how it made sense, it either didn't, or I could reach out and I could learn from someone how it made sense.
Exactly right. And then I used to have an Excel sheet of everything that I looked at, everything I tracked. If I get an email from a wholesaler for a house on Forest Avenue, it went on the sheet. And then I would just kind of review it and see who's buying what, at what price, what is everybody doing?
Right. And so what did those relationships do for you from these meetups?
I think the there was a lot of relationship building. You meet everybody, but there's always a common theme in that construction was the hard part.
Right.
Sure, financing is there. You need to figure out the financing, but you need to figure out the deal. But I hear so many people complaining about the construction part of it, and so-and-so is struggling with the electrician. I'm like, man, I know like 5, and they're in my back pocket. And,
right.
You're struggling with running the rehab. Well, that's all I've ever done. And I learned that was kind of my only superpower, so to speak. Maybe not even a superpower, but the only thing that I could probably do.
So that gave you an edge. I mean, because it really is like a construction business when you're flipping and rehabbing. Did that lead to partnerships? Like, did you think to step up and say, hey, well, I do this really well. If we work together in this deal, I'll handle this, you handle that, and we'll split it, some way.
That's exactly what I did. I approached a lot of investors, say, hey, you got this house, I'll help you. Matter of fact, I'll bring some funds into the deal. Like, we will figure this out and we'll run it. And I kind of had a saying, there's 3 parts to the deal. There's the deal, the money, and the rehab. Each part, you could argue a little bit one way or the other, each part's worth about 1/3. So then the profit split would be, you brought the deal, you didn't bring the money, and you didn't bring the rehab, we got 33%-ish. And there's always like a little bit of give and take depending on how good the deal was or if the rehab was more. And that's how it just kind of happened. And it allowed me to do a lot of dry runs in that, hey, we flipped 10, 15 houses before I even owned one. Or they were JVs, and
right.
someone would fund it, and I would just run the rehab.
Right. Did you have any? Do you have any feedback as to how to find the right partner, or maybe red flags to stay away from when people want to do JVs and you're not sure it's the right partnership?
I think the agreement up front is the key. I've never done like a 20-page document. We use just 1 or 2 pages that say, you do this, I do this. These are 5 or 6 scenarios that if this goes wrong, what happens? And then the biggest thing I found is if you come to a place where you have a disagreement, there needs to be a third person that you've picked out before that will make a decision and that you both agree on, that will make a decision, and then you both need to abide by it. I've never gotten to that point, but yeah, there's been 1 or 2 tough phone calls.
Right. That's smart. And I've heard people say, like, never do a 50-50 partnership, because then if you both totally disagree,
nothing that happens.
Right,
yeah,
right. And obviously, like, to your point, you can certainly have 50-50 partnerships, but you have to have stuff in writing of what happens if there's just totally a disagreement.
Exactly.
I assume because you ended up doing like scaling and doubling in volume year over year and doing a lot more deals. Was that largely due to your partnerships and your networking that you had, or did you just go out on your own? You had enough referral business at that point?
So very early on, it was a lot of JV deals, because I wasn't sure how to find houses, and there were other people that could find them. And,
right.
2018 and 2021, 2018 we did 1. 2019 we did 5 or 6, and then 2020 it was like 20, and then it really started to spiral. And I still do JVs to this day with a couple of people when it makes sense. Actually, a couple of the original people.
Right.
But I don't do as much, and now we try to keep everything in-house as much as we can. We really function as a construction company. All we are is a construction company that happens to do real estate. Yes, we're real estate investors, but no, we're a construction company first. And if you treat the business as a construction company that just happens to do real estate, it'll really change the way you think about rehabs.
How did this? So you tried running a business before, and it was difficult. The business side of it was hard.
Yes.
Why is the business side of this easier for you?
I think working for other people that treated construction as a profession, and to be organized, to not just, down to, all right, when an invoice comes in, what happens to that invoice? Well, the invoice has got to be in by Monday. It's make sure we got a checkbox for the COI and W-9. All right, then it gets paid out this way. Every little thing. And it's, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I'm doing everything right now, but I'm doing a heck of a lot better than I used to. every little thing, because you're doing the same thing repeatedly, then you need to develop a system for that,
Right.
so
Yep.
that everyone knows what to do and how to follow that.
Yep. Especially with your scale. Like you can't scale and not put processes or systems in place.
Exactly.
Well, I guess you could, but it would go poorly,
Yep.
most likely. You eventually went into rentals and things like that. When did you kind of say, or was there a point, I should ask, where you said, let's change our focus and do different asset types, or we can do all asset types, or we can do rentals, or we can do these other mobile home parks.
Yep.
When did you start opening your mind up from just flipping single family to doing other things?
I was never able to convince my wife that, hey, this was a good idea to go do this, until we had consistent cash flow coming in. Because I had told her the story of, hey, I failed here and I didn't do very well. And that was always our agreement that, hey, when we have X amount of dollars coming in per year consistently, then okay, you can make the jump. And I was like, well, that's very simple. It's hard to predict a flip. I don't know when my phone's going to ring, but rentals, mobile home parks, a little bit of multifamily, that's the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking for stuff and building up the number of doors, building up the cash flow.
Right. And then how has that, I assume financially it was a game changer when you started doing rentals.
It was. It is, and you probably know for yourself, you absolutely can make money on single family home rentals, but it's hard to be consistent about it unless you buy really, really deep. Now, sure, the ones I bought in 2018, 2019 are doing much better, but year one, you might make $300-400, and that's a good month, and then an HVAC system goes out. So it helped. It gave us a little bit of buffer, but really the flip business started to spiral to where, hey, this is consistent now. I'm getting calls every week. There's an inertia effect to it. Once you
Right.
start buying a bunch and people start hearing that you're buying a bunch, well, then we got to go
Right.
that direction.
Right. And then, so you went to multifamily and mobile homes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that multifamily and mobile homes cash flow a bit better than the
100%.
single family?
Yeah.
There's a big argument with that as far as like single family, you're somewhat diversified, and then multifamily, it's less liquid or whatever. I look at it as like, just buy what you can. That's a good deal.
That's
Like,
exactly right.
Because single family, again, you're absolutely right. Where if you cash flow 300, 400 a month, and then something happens, a year of your cash flow is gone. But you have the equity, right? A lot of landlords won't think about the $1,500, $2,000 in rent that's being paid that isn't cash flow, that's going to their mortgage. Really, that's paying that off. So you do get the equity in that, but it's very little cash flow. On multifamily, you probably have a higher opportunity for cash flow and equity as well.
Yes.
And then mobile homes, I would guess, I do not have any mobile homes, but I would guess because the cost to entry is so low that the cash flow is likely ridiculous that you could get from it.
It used to be low.
Yeah, it used to be.
Yeah, and until a lot of people started coming into the space, and
Mm-hmm.
and then the prices came up. But it's really hard to drive in a mobile home park, not owning them, and looking around thinking, man, this place is a little rough, but the purchase price is 1.5, and I don't think he's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but to look around, they're not amazing looking
Right,
sometimes. But
right.
it's all about that profit and loss sheet.
You're not owning the mobile homes themselves, or are you owning both the mobile home and the land? How do you like to structure that?
We got a lot of mobile homes in the initial purchases, and then we sold them off on terms. But I would say only 50%, at least our experience is 50%, have actually been paid off. So you end up getting that home back, refresh it, put it back up. Or if it's in a really good location, we do a lot of handyman specials where it's not perfect, but I tell you what, you give me a couple grand for the trailer, it's yours, and just pay me lot rent.
Yeah. You have mentioned, I also like what you've talked about before when you said speaking your goals into existence.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to me about that a little bit?
I think someone once said, if you want something, if you want a specific thing, tell everyone you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as investors, like you may want a mobile home park or a storage facility or whatnot. You may tell a couple people, but for some reason we try to keep that in-house. Like, I'm kind of scared to say it. No, I'm a big believer. You say what you want. You say what you want. You tell everyone, and then all of a sudden, you may not. And I think some people think that, oh, if I say I want a single-family home, a rancher, that no one's going to send me anything else. It's exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you're able to verbalize specifically what you want will separate yourself from somebody else to say, hey, I just want a deal. I can't tell you. I used to tell everyone, I want tri-levels. If it smells like cat pee, I want it. Please call me.
Right.
And I used to get people, and some people do call me because it smells like cat pee, but they'll call me, hey, it doesn't smell like cat pee, but it's in rough shape. Here you go.
Right.
Yeah, for it. And I think that's been very helpful to me in the past.
Yeah, that's awesome. Similar, the conversation we had before we were recording, just telling a buddy of mine that I wanted a beach house.
Yeah.
It's just like, then he knew a guy who wanted to sell a beach house. Like
Exactly
it wasn't on the market or anything like that. But I was a big fan of that, of just talking about what you want. And I know there's a difference in, I think a lot of people would be like, well, I don't want to bother people. And I think there's a difference in the kind of the mindset of like, you're a realtor and you tell everyone that you sell houses. Like, you have to do that. That's a smart thing to do if you're in business. But you kind of look at it as like, there are ways to have conversations to where you're not forcing things on people. Like you could just put it out there in the world, just in regular conversation as you're grabbing coffee or whatever, that these are some of the goals that you're trying to hit. Mm-hmm. And I do that for Peak Property Management all the time, where I'm like, whether it's internally or externally or speaking to business mentors, where I'm just kind of like casually putting my thoughts out there just to see if it goes anywhere, just to see what kind of feedback I get. And oftentimes it'll turn into some pretty interesting conversations and lead down some interesting roads.
That's exactly right. And the lead or the source, if I told Sally this, it's almost never comes from Sally. It'll come from John.
Right.
Because Sally told John.
Right.
And it's amazing how that happens.
Right. Do you think that you had mentioned that most of your business runs off of referrals now and not marketing, which is awesome. That's like the best kind of business to get, in my opinion. Is this from speaking it into existence? Is it from the meetups? How do you think, if someone wants to start a referral-based business, what's the best way to go about it?
I think for me, a lot of our referrals come from off-market listings through realtors. I'd say 60% does. And what I used to do originally is I had a house that was loose. In other words, it wasn't referred to another realtor. I'd call up a realtor that identified that, hey, this guy or girl is really good at what they do, very impressed by their marketing, and I think I could maybe build some business here. So I'd call them up and say, hey, I want to build a relationship with you, and I'm going to throw a house to you right now, and that, hey, in 6 months from now, when you're walking into something else, please call me. Mm-hmm. And I kind of forced some relationships that way. I don't know if force is the right word, but I was able to grow a bunch of relationships that way just by trying to put my best foot forward. Hey, I want to help you, or I want to develop a business relationship, and I'm going to help you first. Mm-hmm. And that has really, I have never done that to somebody where nothing came back.
Right. And it's different because you don't really expect it to come back. You just like, if you add that value up front, it's going to come back if you're genuinely adding value. After years of fast growth, are you more focused on volume at this point or quality?
I think in 2022, you could put anything up for sale, and some of my flips were not the most amazing things very early on. I think they were good. They were better than some of the others, but I started to realize, hey, you have a reputation in this industry. I mean, we try to hide behind land trust and this, that, and the other, but people know who you are. Mm-hmm. And quality is a huge portion of it. And I've seen it pay off on some of our higher end listings where, hey, we've seen Nathan do, I looked at, a 350 rancher a couple weeks ago was really good. So, hey, this $800,000-$900,000 house listing, the realtor can speak confidence to that buyer to say, hey, this is probably going to be good. And that really pays off when all of a sudden there's a competitive offer situation. I mean, maybe not as much now, but then that really will start to pay dividends. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we are 100% focused on quality right now, and I definitely want to deliver a quality home as much as I can.
Right. How did you shift when the rates started getting higher?
We don't do wholesale flips. There's a bunch of investors that do, and they do really well at it. We have always done full rehabs, and I've tried to do wholesales, and I'm just not good at it. And as the market, or as the volume grew and I started to lose pulse on the rehab itself, I learned my guys are really good at, hey, we're just going to go in there, we're going to do the kitchen, both baths, new roof, new this, and this. And this is what we do. But sometimes on a wholesale, you want to do this, but not this and not this. And so it really hasn't been, those have not turned out great, because we're simple construction guys. We see a nail, we hit it with a hammer.
Right.
We see a kitchen that needs updating, psh, out it comes. I've literally walked into our houses before, like, man, that bathroom wasn't half bad. I don't know why it's out, but it's out now. So, so to answer your question is, because we rehab everything to the nth degree, that has allowed us to sell a little bit more consistent, because our stuff is decent and it's generally done as much as we can for that price point.
Right. That's interesting. When as you've scaled your team, have you needed to hire anyone or bring anyone to help you with this additional volume?
Yes, we have 2 project managers. Probably we'll get a third here soon.
Awesome.
And I have 2 really good guys that
Yeah.
I'm very proud of, and they're awesome.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for them, I'm not sitting here today.
Right.
I'm over there trying to, run to Lowe's
Right.
and grab something. One of the guys actually had hired at my former company, and we became friends, and he kind of helped me nights and weekends. And then once I left, he followed me. He wasn't overly happy with the current job, and it worked out. And I think it's a perfect match. It's been really good. And I think if you look at a lot of companies in construction and real estate, there's always that 1 or 2. Yes, you have the person that's in charge. We have 1 or 2 key guys that they really run the show. And that's exactly what I have.
It's a different game when you get to the point where you can start employing people to do the work, and that's pretty cool. That's cool that you've reached that stage. I kind of skipped over this, but I like to ask, what was it like when you had to quit your W-2 and then you just were full-time investing? What was that mindset like? What was your conversation with your wife? How did that go?
So my wife never fully gave me the okay, but I think at the time we were just running like 12 flips, and I was in a JV partnership and trying to work 40 hours for the current employer, and I was running out of hours in the day, and I finally came home to my wife, said, everyone is upset at me. Even the guys that were swinging a hammer for me are upset at me because I can't give them answers.
Right.
My boss at the time was asking me, hey man, you're not really doing great. What's going on here? And we had, at some point you work for somebody 10 years, become friends, and he kind of noticed it. And I had a JV relationship that was not going great because I was not holding up my end of it. I could not be there. So I came home and told my wife, look, I know we're not quite there with the rental side of it, but if we're going to do this, I think I got to go now, because no one, and my wife is great, amazing, love her to death, but there was a couple of, hey, why are you not home,
Right.
every Saturday,
Right.
and rightfully so. And
Right.
I like my wife, so I'd kind of like to hang out with her. And I finally just told her, like, look, everyone is mad at me. I need to tell them tomorrow. And he took it well. We transitioned out, and then that happened.
So you were waiting on the rental portfolio to get large enough to feel comfortable, because obviously flips can be unsteady now and then, but you were doing so well flipping where you could jump a little earlier than you expected. That was the goal of investing financial freedom for you? Did you see it that way, or was it just another means to an end to make money?
I've never really looked at investing as a financial freedom. Like, I look at investing like I really enjoy the construction process of it. I really enjoy the people that are involved with it. Yeah, I get upset at this and they get upset at that, but I really enjoy the process part of it.
Right.
I mean, sure, money's great and we all like that, but I enjoy what we do, and I kind of don't want to stop. Saturday, I'll wake up and go drive around to the job sites and my painter is my friend and now, so I
Right.
kind of want to see him.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and my guys are my friends, so I really enjoy the process part of it, and
Yeah.
I kind of always have enjoyed that. Yes, financial freedom is there, but I think the only thing I would say as far as we didn't really have enough cash flow at the rentals, but we had used someone from Profit First, David Phelps, and she had really helped get our finances scheduled in order, running everything through QuickBooks to where we could see, hey, there's some surplus here. We'll start paying the salary. I don't quite follow Profit First. It's a great system. It's amazing. I follow kind of my own modified version of it,
Right.
but that's how I was able to make the jump.
Yeah, that's good, and that definitely gets you squared away. I know a handful of people that follow that. Is it Richter?
Yes, Dave
Is
Richter.
it
I'm
Dave
sorry.
Richter? Yeah, Dave Richter. And he has a book on it. But yeah, so I know a handful of people that follow that. I've naturally always starved anything that I do for money. I don't know why. Just naturally, I've always been like, okay, I made X amount of money this month. This is going over here in a place that I won't ever see it and won't ever know about it. I only have this amount of money to operate on, and I need to be really smart with how I operate it. And that just makes me feel better. And this money goes somewhere else to do something good. But this, I'm starving myself on purpose so that I never even
Nothing
think about
ever,
that.
yeah.
And you have your tax bucket and you have your other buckets and stuff over here. So that's all taken care of. That's cool, and that's awesome. If you got away and you got to do something you were passionate about, and now you're employing people. Where do you had mentioned that you were interested in new development now? What does that look like? Is that the next few years for you, kind of going in that direction, or?
I don't know if I'll ever be the guy that takes 25 acres and turns it into a 50-lot subdivision, goes through rezoning and whatnot. But because of my land background, I got really good at kind of infill unique lots. Because as a custom home builder, you're not really doing lot takedowns in Halsey or something like that. You're looking for the lots that really good lots or never built on because this or that. And so I got very familiar with that part of it. And when I started on my own, I kind of forgot. I was like, I don't really want to be the land guy. I want to be, we're in construction. But the more I started to realize, no, that is kind of my unique part of it. I'm familiar with it. I know some of these people. I know the lingo. So we're starting to do more infill lot buildings. We're buying a lot of houses, splitting off the lot. You break even on the house, maybe you lose a little bit of money on the house, but you have the lot. So we'll start the new build side. So I think going forward, we're going to continue to flip. I'm never going to shut that off. We're probably not going to buy as many. This year we might do 80 homes or something like that. I don't know if I want to do 80 homes again. We might scale that back a little bit and then put more new builds in place to where it's more consistent income. It's so much easier to finance new construction. You're funded better. It's more systems, more processes. We can nail that down a little bit. It's when people walk into a new build, there's a different feeling than if you walk into a flip house. They're kind of already on guard. On a new build, sure, maybe a little bit, but you understand, hey, it's all new.
Right.
So I think that the construction part of it will probably be 60-40, 60 rehab, 40 new construction in a perfect world. We'll see how that works out, but that's the goal. I think you're right that new builds definitely has less surprises as long as your estimating was correct. I mean, sure, if Trump threatens Canada with tariffs again, regardless of your feelings on that, the lumber went up and TGIs went up, and it yes, that can go crazy. But if you go into it thinking you're going to build at 145 a square foot and your estimates are good, you really shouldn't see a variance of more than 5-6% on new construction. But on infill lot building, there's a bunch of variables on that lot. Is it buildable? Can you build on it? And that is the big red flag. You need to go in thinking that it's almost not buildable and to and kind of prove yourself wrong.
Right.
Because sometimes there's a reason why no one's touched it.
Right.
In 100 years.
And you see that with wholesalers. Like wholesalers will post something for sale, whether it be land or a house or anything, and then the experienced investors that have been here for 10 years in this market, you'll see all these comments on social media to say like, I looked at that 2 years ago, and there's no chance you're ever getting water to that house, or you know, like you can't do this or can't do that, and you know you feel bad for the wholesalers, like, oh, these, you know, that's already been ran over. Everyone knows about this lot or this house, and there's just nothing you can do with it. Would you do build to rent, or would they all just be to sell?
They could be build to sell. I think build to rent is hard on single family. I mean,
correct.
It's doable, sure, but you need to really have more doors,
more volume, or duplexes, triplexes, like just something multifamily. That makes a lot of sense. So do you think that's your direction for the next couple of years? Is there anything else like mobile home parks or anything like that you're going to get into that's different?
I think the thing that I'm seeing on the single family home rentals side, the stuff that we bought in 2018, 2019, 2020 is starting to have a little bit of equity into it. Mm-hmm. And yes, they're cash flowing a little bit more, but, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but once you're not getting more than a certain percentage of, you know, cash on cash return, or, you know, return on equity rather,
right,
you probably need to sell that.
Right.
You know, you'd probably need to sell that. So we've sold a couple. You know, we bought our office. We're buying another building here very soon. And I think I'm going to start peeling off some of those single family home rentals that have a little bit of equity into them, doing 1031s or just straight buying something a little bit bigger.
Right.
I mean, absolutely, we'll still keep single family rentals. If you get something that you can keep, really as a tax play and depreciate the heck out of it,
right,
you need to do it. That's real cash.
Right.
You know, that's real cash because it's protecting your tax burden.
Right. That's do you listen to Rich Lennon?
Oh, I loved when he posted that side of it, because I kind of thought about it, but then when he posted, it's like, oh, this is amazing. I'm reading every single comment just to see, like, I really enjoy this.
Yeah. He knows how to stir the pot for sure, but it made sense.
It totally does.
And I asked him about it when he was on the podcast, and I was like, explain that to me. And he did. He was like, basically, as your equity goes up in a house, your cash on cash return, or your return on the equity is less. Yes. And so as you hold on to the house that's longer, you have more cash in that house, and you have less of a cash on cash return, essentially. And exactly so right. He was like, you know, trade it up into something else to where you don't have as much money tied into it and you're getting a better return. So that's interesting. It definitely was a controversial thing where he was just like, sell all your rentals, but then at the same time he's like, I'm buying rentals again.
Yeah.
You know, so he's just but he's super smart, and it's awesome to listen to what he's saying. But yeah, I tune into everything that he puts out, because it makes you think. It makes you think differently about things from a different perspective, and he's not scared to stir the pot and make people think differently and be controversial. But it will make you think about rentals, and then he'll tell you that he's buying rentals again, but then he'll explain why.
Yes.
You know, and then go through this whole thing. So it's pretty cool, and that what you just said kind of backs some of his theory.
I think you're right, because you've got $100,000 in equity and you're making, you know, $4,000 a year. I don't know, man. That's, you know, depends on your goals and your strategy and all that. But I started really looking at my rental sheet hard after I read that. It's like, I think I need to start selling these as they come up for renewal.
Right. As long as you, and with you, in your case, you have relationships, you have momentum, you have a team, you have all these things, so it makes sense. If you're someone who's like tapped out and just bought these houses 10 years ago and aren't doing anything, it's going to be harder to place that money somewhere else.
Exactly.
So if you keep that momentum going, it's going to be easy to keep the flow of the money. Yep. What else are you getting into over the next 5-10 years?
I think, you know, really for us, we've grown almost 100% every single year since 2021 or 2020 rather, and I don't want to do that again, because I think the biggest small killer in small business is growth, because you run out of cash, you're not staffed correctly, you don't have the right systems in place. You know, you don't want to grow too fast. And I got very lucky with a couple of decisions that I made that was able to help me to grow. So right now, I want to kind of, now that the market's starting to cool a little bit, I need to step back. Let's do everything just a little bit better. Let's look at our cost a little bit more. What are we putting into the house? Do we have to do this? Should we do that? Let's get that process kind of nailed down. There's 1 or 2 seats that I need to fill on the admin side that I think we really need to do. But I think right now it's just going to level out on the construction side. And I'm fine with that. And my wife's probably fine with it.
Yeah, probably
But,
a little less stress.
exactly. And then, there's been a couple times when we got low on cash and I did something wrong. So what happened there? I need to not do that again. But I think that's going to be the main part of it here. But, as we since it started in 2006, the market changes, everything changes. You need to change with it.
Right. And
you need to approach it differently depending on what you see. Just, wholesalers used to, Jim used to do a bus, back in the day and drive around. Well, then it went to, all right, now everybody's meeting at the property, and now all of a sudden everything's digital with pictures and videos, and the market, little things change, and you just need to make sure you follow that.
Right. So you're not left behind.
Exactly right.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who wants to get started in real estate investing today? What sort of moves should they start to make, in your opinion?
I think exactly what I did is you're walking into an industry that you don't have history or knowledge or a background in, or maybe you do have a little bit. So the only way to do that without making 100 mistakes is to kind of build that background a little bit, see what everyone's doing on deals. And I used to call a couple of people if I saw somebody buy it and do this. I used to call them and say, well, what happened there? What made you want to buy this? How did you do this? How did you do that? What was your expected profit? And it always surprised me. Investors love to talk to each other for the most part. The ones that don't, you shouldn't hang out with them. But, I think you need to kind of build that history, that knowledge, and then start taking action, because you absolutely learn by doing it. And yes, sometimes there is a price of education. There's no getting around that. But if you build that background, maybe partner early on with someone who has a little bit more knowledge than you, yes, you're going to give up a little bit of cash or equity, but I promise you that'll pay dividends down the road.
100%.
No question about it.
That's great advice. How can people get in touch with you if they wanna reach you, like social media or something like that? Is that the best way?
Yeah, I'm probably one of the few guests that don't really have like an Instagram page or anything like that. I'm on Facebook, but I really love helping other investors, and I've done this a few times where if you just want me to help go walk a house with you and tell you what I see, what I think you should do, or just help. I mean, you might owe me a beer, sure, but I don't mind helping that side of it. And then giving you names to kind of help with. Brandon Lindsay runs the Rehabber's Playbook. I think that's an awesome thing, and I would highly recommend anyone use that. But yeah, ping me on Facebook. Happy to help. Construction, I love it. So I'll help you any way I can.
That's powerful. Even just the connections that you have. Like if someone just hits you up and says, hey, I have this question or I need this resource, you would be able to connect them to other people. It's like I think people are pretty accessible these days, and we don't always take advantage of that. But yeah, just a simple message or grabbing a beer or something like that can go a long way with getting started in real estate. Or just what meetups are you going to be at, or what meetups should I go to, or something like that. We get those questions all the time. Any final thoughts?
No, I think you need to. I'm probably going to speak for all your guests. You need to turn the mic around here for something. I'd love to see you do a podcast on yourself.
Awesome, I appreciate that. It probably will be a while before that happens. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think there's a lot of nuggets that we can take away from this and from your story and what you've went through to get to where you are now. I appreciate you sharing these nuggets and offering to help others achieve something similar. It's always great when someone climbs up the ladder and reaches back down to help others join them. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here.